Good morning. This is December 20th, 2023 meeting of the Western Region Board of Review. The time is 9 o'clock and the hearing is officially open. Members of the board are David Flynn, Richard Andrews, John Shenny, and Peter Clayman. My name is John Lyden. Chairman from the Department of State is Andrew Bizdak, Tom DiTullio, and Dan Farrelly. We will now hear the scheduled petitions. When you speak, please address the board and give your name, title, and legal address so that our court reporter can have all the information requested. We may have to stop from time to time to consult with our technical staff. And making comments to the board, please provide a descriptive narrative on matters referring to your exhibits to enable the court reporter to enter these into the record. We have 4 hearings today. The first is petitioner's Castellani Art Museum. The second petitioner is Mark Handy. The third is the Syracuse International Airport. And the fourth is Brandon Woods. At this point, the Castellani Art Museum can come forward. This petition number is 2023-0572. The nature of grievance and relief sought. The petition requests an appeal/variance to allow for occasional use of a facility to hold events serving food and alcohol without a change of use/limited occupancy requirement. The building consists of a 1-story plus partial second-level mechanical room, 1,702 square feet, type 2B construction, A3 occupancy, and has a gross area of approximately 27,024 square feet, including the mechanical room. The building is located at 7 Varsity Drive, Niagara University, Town of Lewiston, County of Niagara, State of New York. The petition seeks relief from 19 NYCRR 1221, the 2020 Building Code of New York State, Section 303.4, which states Assembly Group A3. Group A3 occupancy includes assembly uses intended for worship, recreation, and amusement, and other assembly uses not thus classified elsewhere in Group A, including but not limited to art galleries. Petitioner requests to allow for occasional use of a facility to hold events serving food and alcohol without change of use/limited occupancy requirement. Second section seeking relief is 19 NYCRR 1221, the 2020 Building Code of New York State, Section 903.2.1.2, which states Group A2. An automatic sprinkler system shall be provided throughout stories containing A2 occupancies and throughout all stories from the A2 occupancy to and including the levels of exit discharge serving that occupancy where one of the following conditions exist. The fire area exceeds 5,000 square feet. The fire area has an occupant load of 100 or more. The fire area is located on a floor other than the level of exit discharge serving such occupancies. Petitioner requests to allow for occasional use of the facility to hold events serving food and alcohol without a change of use/limited occupancy requirement. The next code section, 19 NYCRR 1221, the 2020 existing Building Code of New York State, Section 1011.2.1, which states fire sprinkler system. Where a change in occupancy classification occurs, or where there's a change of occupancy within a space where there is a different fire protection system threshold requirement in Chapter 9 of the Building Code of New York State that requires an automatic fire sprinkler system to be provided based on the new occupancy in accordance with Chapter 9 of the Building Code of New York State. Such a system shall be provided throughout the area where the change of occupancy occurs. Petitioner requests to allow for occasional use of the facility to hold events serving food and alcohol without change of use/limited occupancy requirement. At this point, you may present your case.
Good morning. My name is Richard Nardini. I'm an architect with Labella Associates, and we are representing the Castellani Art Museum for this petition. Our address is 300 Pearl Street, Suite 130, Buffalo, New York, 14202, I believe. We have submitted, exhibits A, B, and C. Exhibit A is basically from, well, before I go, here today with me is Ellen Owen. She is the director of the museum, and she would be able to address any questions that you may have for that. Ellen also presented, as part of this, a list of probable and what she would like to see core programs and activities at the museum. And that's Exhibit A. It's multiple pages. And we submitted this early on in our discussions with the local CEO and kept it as part of this submittal just to give you an idea of the number of activities and the number of events and sometimes the size of them as well. They are looking to, as you mentioned, they are looking to have the ability to hold periodic fundraising events, which is a huge part of their program. And we understand that it's classified as an A3, and it's not a sprinkler facility. It was built in 1989. It's a one-story facility. I provided a couple of site plan and a floor plan that was indexed a number of photographs to give you an idea for what the facility feels like and looks like. The exits are plentiful. We meet all the requirements for the exits. We understand though that we're not sprinkled, and the fact that we want to have some of these events requires that or means that we would jump into a different classification. So basically, to kind of make it a little simpler, that is what we are looking for, some kind of way of working with the local CEO. We've had many meetings with Pat, and we tried to come up with a plan of how to make this happen. But we have not been able to do that yet, and that's why we came to this board to ask for your assistance in analyzing this and giving us some direction.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask a few questions, I think you see where I'm going with it.
Sure.
So, Rick Andrews speaking. I have a couple questions. I guess it would be either for the building inspector or fire inspector or for Mr. Nardini, but the building was built in 1989, is that correct?
Yes.
Has there been any additions? According to the brief that we got from you, there's no additions or revisions since 1989 to that building.
Right.
What does the certificate of occupancy state for the occupancy?
We have not been able to find that.
Okay. So the reason I'm going there is because in the code of 1984 which is what this would come under, which is called politely called the Green Book.
Yeah, the Green Book.
These classifications for this facility would be listed as a C5 assembly. It would either be a C5-1, less than 300, C5-2, greater than 300, but less than 1,000, or a C5-3, which is greater than 1,000. And then you had a C5-4, which was churches. The C5-5s were schools. Under that heading of C5 assembly, and that's how they broke it down based on occupancy. And then under that heading of group assembly, and this is right out of the book, the above groups based on number of persons included, but not limited to the following. And they list 28 different types of occupancies, which include art galleries, assembly halls, museums, restaurants, skating rinks, the whole gamut of assembly spaces, bowling alleys, bathrooms, gymnasiums. So where I'm going with this, Mr. Chairman, is that my feeling, personal feeling, is that this building was built as a C5. Not sure exactly what's limited, and I guess that would be up to the fire inspector to go back to the code and see what the square footage was per person and determine what the occupancy was at that time, and that would be what they would be held to, so that number of persons. It was actually a little stricter back then than it is today. It's a little more lenient today. But looking at that, also, sprinkler systems were not required for anything unless you were changing the square footage of the footprint of the building. Then you got credit for having a sprinkler system. So sprinkler systems were not required for over 100 people. I'm not one to say I don't like fire protection equipment, because obviously I do. But if the code was at that time, and this building was built then and never remodeled or revised, which would kick it into a new code. Having said all that, it still leaves the fire inspector an opportunity to go into chapter 4, which is regarding the fire evacuation procedures and what the employees need to know. So that's at least you have that capability of going in and putting some kind of restrictions and limitations on, maybe even a fire watch based on a larger group outings. So that's where I'm going with that, Mr. Chairman, rather than go through a lot of, well, what if we did this, what if we did that? I feel my personal opinion, and I think there was somewhere mentioned that they were looking for an interpretation.
Well, this is
Besides
this
the
is an
variance.
appeal / variance. I mean, I think we have to hear all
So,
parties.
no, understood, but I'm saying appeal /, so they're appealing the interpretation of the code enforcement. So in my opinion, I did quite a bit of research on it, and it all goes back, unless he can come up with something that said, hey, no, and put on addition in 2000 or something, then I say, oh, bets are off at that point. But
Could I respond to that?
Yes.
I actually did that code review from that book, because I was working from that book, and I think I worked with you on a number of projects when you were as a contractor. And I didn't put it as part of the submittal for some reason or another. I didn't know how valid it would be, but Pat and I certainly talked about it quite a bit.
do you remember what C5 1, 2, 3 it
I
was?
think it was less than 1,000, but over 300. And I determined that the occupant load was such, and I can't remember what it was now. But we kind of, when we were talking, we dismissed that because we were talking about today.
Right.
And we really did not talk about the fact that, well, we're not making any changes, so why can't we stay with that kind of work? So, so I did look at that, and I wish I had submitted it, because I did break it down to what it was actually mixed use. There was business in there as well, so.
Right.
I was very familiar with what you were presenting.
So the conversations that you had with whom that did not?
Pat Martin. Pat's on the call.
Oh, he's in Metro. So, Pat?
Yes.
Can you talk about your discussions with Rich regarding, possible mitigation measures or other things that you would be happy with seeing that would, dictate your position on this?
Yes, if I could just answer the previous question on the number of people into the building. That has a tendency of changing depending on the displays in the gallery. They're not all wall hangings and paintings. They have a lot of floor exhibits and separate rooms if you look at the packet that was provided. Each of those could take up square footage, which is going to affect the occupancy numbers.
So let me transfer you over to them, okay? Yep.
To get back to the occupancy and what it is, I mean, it certainly was built back under the old code. There's no discussion about that. But the changes, I think, would be affected by the existing building code, and to turn it into eating and drinking, the serving of alcohol, sit-down tables, I think becomes a concern. We have given some concessions as far as creating a small snack bar area where they could serve coffee, canned juices, that sort of thing, and a few people could sit at a table. It's just the larger numbers. I think we're going to a bad territory. And again, this is a university, a Catholic university that has over 20 buildings. And once you open the gates here, we're just going to continue down a bad path. We currently have a plan before us to sit 500 people in an unsprinklered second floor gymnasium. In doing the 15 square foot per person, the occupancy is well below what they're requesting. So I hate to bring it up, but the university is going to take this and run with it to all the other buildings, which is just going to cause more confusion and more problems.
So this new occupant load is gonna take place at the first and second floor, that's your understanding?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe this is going to have an increase in the occupant load. It's more or less the drinking of alcoholic beverages, the sit-down tables, the impact on the current building to change it from the A3 to an A2, making it more of a banquet hall for these events that they want to have as fundraisers and such.
So oftentimes the designer may put forth measures that could kind of be parallel to the loss of fire protection. You know, we can't sprinkler, but we can add exits and a fire alarm and smoke detection system and a fire watch, et cetera, et cetera. Did you guys talk about those kinds of things that you might be content with seeing if this moved forward?
I don't believe we got that far into the discussion. Again, I'm approaching this as this is a change of occupancy from the way it was originally constructed. That we're putting people all into basically one room for sit-down banquets, and I think it leads to problems.
Is there a smoke and heat detection system currently in the building?
Yes, there is.
So, Rich, have you guys looked at the concept of, how about if we add exits, how about if we do the following to mitigate the loss of sprinkler protection? Have you guys had those conversations?
I thought that we had, yeah.
And what can you tell us about the topics that you guys discussed?
We talked about definitely coming up with a fire watch type of application whereby the museum would hire fire officials and have them stationed, and they would hand out or make it known, and we would apply placards to make sure that people using the facility knew where the exits were in a fire event, that these people that are on working there would be able to direct them to the exits. Now, Pat and I talked at length about that, and the introduction of the alcohol, he felt meant that, okay, people not familiar with the facility, now under the influence, that would be a problem. That was one of the objections that he had.
And those are all legitimate, don't we?
Oh, I understand.
And I agree with him wholeheartedly. I don't like to see no fire protection equipment either for spaces that require it under the code, but unfortunately, everything I look at doesn't point to that. That's the part that it just looks like this is an existing building built in 1989, never changed. You were allowed to you could have had sit-down dinners back then, according to the code.
Right.
And so there is no change, but I still think he has some teeth with that chapter 4, which allows you to add some things along them. How about exiting? Is there more exiting than what is required?
Yes, and I'm assuming that if they were doing this banquet situation, that it wouldn't be open to the general public. And the other thing I want to clarify is we weren't asking for the entire building to be sprinklered, just the main room where this banquet area would be set up and a secondary exit. So the whole building wasn't being required to be sprinklered, just the occupancy where the alcohol, the sit-down dinners, and a second exit out of the building would be sprinklered.
This is David Flynn. Is there any food preparation on premises? So there wouldn't be any cooking?
Correct. There's no cooking, equipment at all. Food, when it's brought and maybe warmed up with, warming platters, but nothing is prepared there. There's no ovens, there's nothing.
No fryers?
No fryers. Yeah.
Peter Kleiman here. Have you, have some sort of drawing or some sort of layout that would position this potential seating area to have an immediate understanding of the exits? It appears as if you were in the, and of course, please, gentlemen, tell me I'm wrong. If you're in the exhibit hall, you would be able to see directly out to the front double doors.
Correct.
Okay, could you have a protocol to make sure the passive leaf is disengaged whenever, that sort of thing? I guess what I'm trying to say, Rick, is that would you be open to getting some better understanding of what the museum is going to do to reassure you? Again, Andrews indicated that chapter of being prepared for a fire at an event has a lot of teeth in it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, looking at Jackie and Peter here, looking, and I can't read this well, but is it safe to say that if I'm in the middle of the space, I see one exit sign, not exit door?
No, you should be seeing 1, 2, 3, 4 exit signs.
Okay, and the exit that I do not have to make a turn left or right, I could just go out, is the double doors on the east side. Okay, and to get to those double doors, do I have to go through an opening in that glass wall?
Yes, there's an opening on either end of that glass wall.
Okay.
There are photos, Mr. Chairman, that
Yeah.
show views from those, and I'm sorry, they're a little small.
Yeah.
The indicators are small, but
Well, the thing that I don't like, take a left turn, take a right turn, walk 8 feet, take a left turn, take a right turn, walk 8 feet, and now you're out of the building. It's nice if you're in the building and there's a door, there's a door, there's a door, and I'm out in 15 seconds. As opposed to making turns and through hallways and through other spaces, which that happens here, right?
it does not.
So tell me how,
You're going out through open areas. Every one of them, you're not going down a hallway.
no, I know, but another adjacent area, yes, another room, another space, yeah, and sometimes that's worse than corridor. As far as possible problems that could occur. Have you ever talked about, you've got, it's just a sprinkler, right?
Yes.
That's a huge hardship. Have you talked about limited sprinkler heads at the exits, at the path to get out of the building, et cetera? Have you talked about that?
We have not.
So who's Tim talking for?
Pat,
Pat.
Yes.
John Lyden. You guys, we got sprinkler heads at some select locations, like at the exit paths, as opposed to the entire event.
I don't think we got into that part. You know, as we look at the main meeting room, there is one entrance that you can see through those glass doors, but that is leading to one exit. The second exit would go through some additional rooms and small aisleways to get to. We sort of discussed, you know, again, we don't have to do this whole building on a sprinkler system, but if we're going to do the banquet type of facility, that we should have the main entrance, the main meeting area, and a secondary exit covered, which I think is outlined in the code.
So, and I'm gonna let everyone else jump in. My 2 cents is, Rich, are you open to additional discussions regarding some of these methods that might offer more protection, like limited sprinkler heads, like additional exits. And like Peter talked about, what's the exiting plan? What's the distance to travel? Are you willing to postpone this, table this, and kind of do more stuff to present to us to show the positive measures you're moving forward with? Or do you want to, and if you're certainly right, to stick with what you have and you're here today and that's that?
I don't know how to speak for Alan, but I believe that we are interested in doing whatever we have to do to make this happen.
So,
Yeah, just, David Flynn speaking, and this is, to the code official. So coming to us as a variance, this decision that we achieve in the arrangement, if there is one, is limited to this particular building. And I'm understanding from you, sir, that you're concerned about sort of setting a precedent for the campus, which I appreciate. And, you know, when we make a decision, it would certainly be limited to the information in front of us and whatever conditions, if there are conditions, but limited to this petition. So if someone else wanted to do something at the building next door, this does not create a precedent for you as the code enforcement officer to say, okay, I've got to allow them to do something on the second floor, unsprinklered gymnasium floor. That's not the case. So, you know, the fact that it's coming here as a variance / appeal and our decision would be limited to this particular use in this particular building, you know, is something you should be aware of, so that if someone approaches you or you become aware of somebody else doing something else on the campus or elsewhere in, you know, in your jurisdiction, that this isn't, you know, kind of a get out of jail free card for anybody wanting to do anything similar to it.
I understand that, sir, and I appreciate that. I think the issue that develops is this is a private university campus. Code enforcement and safety is not always a priority when you're a vice president or a chairman of a department who thinks that they can do in their building as they wish. It's a difficult environment to try to work through, once we allow the gates in one building, they're not going to be concerned with what the code is, and we're not going to know about it until we walk into it, either when there is a fire or as a normal inspection for something we're going through. It's not always an easy environment to work in.
I guess maybe, would you like to come forward and speak to what we've been covering here? And I guess I'd like you to speak about the idea of going back to the board and sitting down with the inspector again and trying to come up with a few things that are leading toward safer condition, like selected sprinkler heads, like additional exit doors, like more fire extinguisher, on and on and on. Are you open to that conversation? And if you are, we'll talk with everyone else here, but maybe where we are at tabling this and not denying it, so that you can come back and make a more formidable presentation that might certainly be in your favor and allow us to feel better about it. Now, from this chair, I don't know if folks want to voice their opinions from their chairs, or do you want to go along with what I'm saying?
He was very outspoken, and he says,
I personally, Andy and some of the people from the state can back me up one way or the other on this, but I feel the interpretation part is that this building was built in 1989 and it goes under the 1989 code, which was 1984. And that we really have no jurisdiction to grant a variance for something that doesn't need a variance.
Well, at that point, with that position, we would be doing an appeal to.
We would grant he's asking for an interpretation.
Well,
I think they both were.
I think we'd be granting an appeal to the code officer's
Yes.
interpretation.
Interpretation.
Okay, so Rich had, Richard was taking the charge.
I'm not saying I'm in love with it, but like I said, I don't like eliminating.
It's okay, I mean, we're between a rock and a hard place.
Right.
We have people who are enforcing the safety of this camp, we're never gonna see any of these people again, and we're not gonna be at any of these events. And so sometimes the folks that are administering the safety, they have great relevance. John?
I tend to side with Rick.
Okay.
It was legal at the time they built it. They could have had a banquet then, and I think there's precedent that it goes by the code under which it was built.
Okay. Peter?
Peter Kleinman here, I second what, Rick has said, and I think that there are real concerns on the part of the local fire chief. And if they could be responsibly dealt with, it could be worked, I think, the relative safety could be worked out without sprinkles. And the classic situation here is that the two of the back exits from the main room go diagonally through gallery 4 and gallery 6. And if the administration of the gallery had a clear understanding that there's a diagonal route through those two galleries, that will have no installations. That's the sort of thing that I believe Pat needs to be reassured that they're, that consistent with the 1989 approval of the building, there is a level of safety that, and for good reason, can be applied in a college situation. Rick and I in enforcement have run into that plenty of times in our previous careers. Thank you.
So I think I'm interpreting Peter as kind of being in the middle, so to speak, and you got two folks that are kind of the opposite. So I'm gonna let David voice his opinion, then we'll see where we're at and what you want to do.
I guess I would characterize myself as in the middle. I think, Rick Andrews and John their analysis is the legal analysis. I think looking at a couple things. One is some reasonable mitigation measures. One that I'm particularly interested in is the fire watch. In terms of having people there, for these types of events, maybe, some lower number in terms of occupancy or numbers of tables. I wouldn't get into that. But I think if we come back and handle this as the appeal and put our agreement behind it with any conditions that you folks might agree to with the code enforcement officer, and make it plainly clear that this is applicable only here, and that, the college president or some dean can't take this and run up and down the street of the university and start having parties on the roof or something like that. I think that's probably the better result.
So my summary is that you've heard the positions of the board members. They're in your head and you got to figure out what that actually means. So it sounds like you can move forward with what you just heard, and maybe you'll get it and maybe you won't. Or it sounds like the things that you might agree to with Pat aren't super expensive, super complicated, et cetera. And by coming back, working with him and him being in agreement with what you guys have decided, that's a pretty good thing as far as our votes go moving forward. So what do you want to do?
Give you one more.
Yeah, sure. You can step outside. So that's it.
No, I think it's, sure.
Hey, Pat, do you have a fire official there?
He's the first.
Are you
The
Robert
fire
White?
official.
Robert White official, okay. And how close is your nearest firehouse?
It's a volunteer department within, I would say 5 miles.
Okay, thank you. Before Rich has to give an answer, anybody here would like to speak on this matter? Anybody on the screen would like to speak on this matter? Okay, what are your thoughts?
We are certainly open to working with Pat to try to come up with a solution that everybody was happy with. I did mention in my letter that you all have that, the price of the sprinkler, and that was a price for sprinkling the whole building, So looking at perhaps, and I think that if we are able to come up with an agreement and sprinklering, that main gallery is part of that agreement, we'd like to know if we could have some kind of time to raise the funds, have those events and raise the funds for that, because right now, and I want to speak for Ellen, but they do not get sufficient capital funds that they can do that type of thing. It's more for operations. So yes, to summarize, we are very interested in working with Pat to everybody's satisfaction.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that Pat will increase his monitoring of this while you raise your money. So Rick, we've also often talked about selected sprinkler installations off domestic water lines that aren't as expensive as going to the main, et cetera, et cetera. So that's on the table in your discussions. Is that safe to say, Pat? Try to get some sprinkler protection off of the domestic water lines?
Well, I think that's a good start. And then maybe we can evaluate how often this is going to take place and take another objective look at it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Like if you guys decided this is gonna happen no more than 30 times a year and you will not have more than 300 occupants. I mean, those kinds of things are great. And they help you out also in monitoring and fire watches. Those are on the table. But I think that's where we're at then. So we're going to simply table Andy, I think, and hear again when these guys come back. That sound okay, Andy?
The next hearing will be in mid-February. That's okay.
And they really wouldn't even have to come back to us if they agreed to some of those conditions. And the code official was happy with it, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Well, they could, though I think the code official might be appreciative of having a limited, site-specific variance that has the magic words that this is not, sort of blanket approval and can't be used
Right.
in other circumstances and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe it doesn't hurt 20 years from now, our verbiage is looked at again by the next generation to say, well, here's what happened then, as opposed to.
Because, in my opinion, and it's obviously my opinion, that there wouldn't be any variance required. So we could put conditions on the interpretation.
So we probably don't even need to break into a discussion, or do we, Andy?
We don't have to deliberate.
So
We're just tabling
we
it.
might have a motion, or we just.
Yeah, let's have a motion.
So,
Also move that we table this particular petition.
I'll second.
I'll have a vote, John,
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
I'm also in favor of tabling it, you already
Yes.
seconded it.
Yes.
So at this point, the board has decided to table this particular, variance request until, additional information is presented to us, and, the petitioner will be working with Pat, regarding the details of the vote. At this point, anybody else want to add anything? Everybody good? Okay, thank you. The hearing is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a nice holiday.
Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome.
We're off the record.
Matter of petition number. Second hearing of the day is matter of petition number 2023-0033. The petitioner is Mark Canby. Nature of the grievance and the relief sought. Petitioner requesting variance regarding alterations to an existing building. This application is for a building type 5B of one or two family dwelling. The building consists of one story and the building is located at 5629 West Lake Road, Town of Groveland, County of Livingston, State of New York. Petitioner seeks relief from 19 NYCRR 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section AJ 601.5, flood hazard areas. In flood hazard areas, alterations that constitute substantial improvement shall require that the building comply with Section R322 of this code. Next section, 19 NYCRR 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R322.1, general conditions, which states, buildings and structures constructed in whole or in part in flood hazard areas, including A or B zones and coastal A zones, as established in tables R301.2, parentheses 1, and substantial improvement and repair of substantial damage of buildings and structures in flood hazard areas shall be designed and constructed in accordance with the provisions contained in this section. Buildings and structures that are located in more than one flood hazard area shall comply with the provisions associated with the most restricted flood hazard area. Buildings and structures located in whole or in part in identified floodways shall be designed and constructed in accordance with ASCE 24. Petitioner requests relief from the basement not having the mechanicals within the flood zone. At this point, you guys can present your case.
Mark Hamby, 5629 Westlake Road, Groveland, Canisius, 14435. When we first bought the house, 2019, December 14th, it was a turnkey. We were going to move in. When we first moved in, found there were soggy rugs. One thing led to another, found black mold under the rugs. Then we found it behind the refrigerator and then behind the oven. And my family's extremely, when they're exposed to mold of any kind, that's a hospital visit, they all have asthma. So we did move in, started tearing out the rugs. That was December 15th. Went up until Christmas, tearing out rugs, getting the garbage all set up. And during that time, from there until March 31st, when we finished the renovations, when I did my taxes, I gave the expenses to the accountant and showed him the expenses from December 15th through March 31st. He inadvertently put $38,000, $411 of those expenses all into 2019. When he did the 2020 taxes, he carried that same amount over into 2020 inadvertently and didn't realize that he duplicated the expenses. I didn't do $38,000 of expenses in 2019. We were only renovating for, about 10 days or 12 days. During that time, mainly taking out rugs and stuff. The real renovation started in 2020, but when I gave him that note of the expenses, this is what I had done from December through March. When he did the 2020 taxes, he put it in a second time. I've questioned him several times on the amount. I said, David Haldeman is the accountant and lawyer. I said, David, I've walked through this house several times. I could not have spent that much money in this house. And he said, well, those the numbers you gave me are right. A year and a half later, I said, David, just check again. And he checked again and found his error. He wrote a letter to the board about it, that it was his error, that he did duplicate $38,411 for 19 and 20. Probably only had a few $1,000s into the building in 2019. He said in the letter that I wrote, I said, as a result of his error in recent correction, it was determined that the total expenses for renovations equal $59,921, which is below the 50% substantial improvement. County assessment, the code officer, Mr. Maxwell, used to determine the value of the house came to $135,200. This amount was also verified by TYLIN, James Burton, engineer, Rochester. His research confirmed that the Livingston County Assessor's records for 2019 show a full market value of $421,300 and land value of $286,100 for a net building value of $135,200. The $59,921 of renovation expenses fall below the FEMA requirements, which would be 67,600 or more. I've submitted this to the code officer and the zoning board, and he said it would be an issue to take up with you folks. It's our hope that we can move forward with any further restrictions to enjoy our home. And Brian White of LaRue here, they will continue the paperwork which would allow us to be removed from the flood zone. And I have submitted the information of the taxes confirmed by attorney and CPA, Mr. Halderman, and shows his error, with apologies.
Would you like to jump in? You want to wait until things come up? It's up to you. Okay. So is this all about, we don't feel it's appropriate for us to have to fill in the basement? Is that what this boils down to?
There shouldn't be any restrictions except for the ones we want to move forward with getting out of the flood zone.
Okay. And the inspector is yourself?
Did you get the letter? This time I asked for a letter from the assessor. What they aren't telling you is there were four structures on that property that added up to $135,200. There's two houses on there. The one that's in question, which is a 2-bedroom with a basement. Then there's another seasonal use, 1-bedroom house on there. And then there was the garage with a workshop that was tore down, and there's still another structure that's on there. And they're all part of the value.
I'm sorry, what's your name, sir?
Ron Maxwell, code officer for the county road.
Thank you.
The Livingston County Assessor, the amount that we're talking about on the house that's in question is $135,000. Like I said, TYLIN years show that that's the house that's in question. That's the one that was supposedly in violation. You're in violation of the house. Okay. So your position is that house is applicable to the house in question. Your position is that
I went to the assessor, and he's the one that said there's 4 buildings. Not that house is 130. And
So that's where the conflict is.
Yeah.
Your assessor saying it's 4 houses, your guy saying it's just a single house. That's where we're
there's
at.
2 houses and 4 buildings on the property at the time work was done. On the 2-bedroom house with the basement in the flood, there were 4 buildings on the property. Since then, he had tore one down. But what I want you to also recognize, the assessor put in there, all the property conditions, there was no code if they were in bad shape or anything. What it says is they are all listed as normal, good condition.
There's no question, according to the Livingston County Assessor, that the house in question is $135,200, which is below 50% of what we put into the house. I mean,
There is no Livingston County assessor. There's a town assessor.
there is a Livingston County assessment that TYLN provided for us. We have a document from them.
That would have come from Livingston County real property. All the assessing is done at the town. And T.Y. Lynn, I checked with the assessor, never called the town assessor to talk. You should have a copy. Yes.
Hopefully.
Yes. And you have to go to what I was told at the time by the code officer, Peter, that you've got to go by what your assessor had in his record. This time I brought a letter from the assessor.
I'll speak to that.
Yes.
So, right, so all this time you're telling me that the $135,200 is the market you're going with was that's what you told me.
No.
So we've researched this. I mean, it's factual. The house in question is fair market value according to the assessor at the time, $135,200. It's a documented in Livingston County.
If you go back, it's on all 4 structures that are on the property. seasonal use, one-bedroom house, a two-bedroom house, garage with the workshop, and the class structure down by the way.
Which would make it even better. Because that's what. all of
I'm
that.
sorry, I'm not sure what's happening. I'm having a hard time hearing Mr. Hamby.
Guys, we're going back and forth without identifying who we are for the record, so we're gonna stop doing that. We're gonna make sure that everybody identifies themselves before they have a counterpoint to state. Go ahead.
I mean, we spent below the 50% of the,
Yes. Gotcha. I think T.Y. Lynch should jump in with all
Oh,
of
this is LaRue.
LaRue, jump in with all your stuff.
So I can't speak to the cost of the substantial improvement. I do have solutions to comply with the substantial improvement, in towards that direction. But I think the primary purpose here is identifying the substantial improvement classification.
Can I have your name and title? I don't get your name.
My name is Brian Slate from McMahon and Associates.
Brian Slate, S-L-A-T-E?
White like the color.
White, okay, thank you.
So at this point, in order for me to feel like we're making progress here, I'm gonna go through each board review member and ask them what their take is on the issue at hand. Okay.
I've got a question here.
Yep.
So there's some question as to how much the repairs were. Supposedly, according to all these documents, the accountant or somebody counted it twice. Was the real value of the repairs 38,000 and change?
from December through March.
Okay. So what we're looking at is if that house has a value more than $80,000, we're less than 50%.
Correct. Way less than 50%.
Okay.
So counterpoint of view to what you're going at is submission that the value is, that value is for all of the buildings, not just the building that was repaired. So he's saying this property and all of its structures was $135,000. Seems pretty low for.
Lakefront property, it seems very low.
Well, and it's David Flynn. The code officer doesn't, you don't have a number for just that building. So, all we have in front of us is that gross number, whether they assess the property based on the primary structure or included all four buildings. But we can't, and it's not our job to say, oh, that one building is, $48,000 out of that total. We can't do that. That's not our job. So what we have to look at is the total number and the dollars that were spent, as part of the cleanup, fix up. I mean, if there was a number from the town or the county that said that primary structure was assessed at X dollars, then, you know, we could look at that and we probably wouldn't be here because the math would be simple, but we don't have any other number to go.
I want, Ron Maxwell, I want by what the paperwork Mr. Hamby gave me, that Mr. Burton must have talked to the county real property director. She's not the assessor of the town. I went to the assessor of the town. He wasn't the assessor at the time, and he said, there's 4 buildings on there, 2 houses.
But nobody officially broke that.
No, and that should have been broke down by Mr. Burton. And another point is, he bought it, according to real property, December 14th. So he had about 15 days, 17 days in December. He should have been shut down by the 15th to the 20th of March because the governor shut every building project down. And my point is, when he went in May of 20, he wouldn't have even had his taxes done for 20 yet. When he went to the board and said he put 93,000 in.
Okay,
Mark,
so, I mean, I think we're getting to the point of back and forth, so we'll let you conclude your comments. I think we're at that point.
Okay, well, just one comment as far as the the worth of the house on the lake, actually, the market value is 421,000. That's mainly the land. That's what's worth. The house is not worth that much. But when we hired TYLN, to do this, they were very thorough in their investigation, and the assessed value of the house that's in question was 135,200. The accountant, when I gave them all of the information, I wrote it down. These are expenses, from December through March of that time. And when he redid the taxes for 2020, he brought that same number over. It's identical. You can see it in his tax return. And also, at the end of that time, I was in the hospital, at Warsaw Hospital, with COVID and bleeding, through my mouth. I was not still renovating houses at that time. It took me another 3 months to recover from that.
Okay, anybody else?
I have two questions,
Yep,
quick,
go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. I've got a letter here from the New York State DEC to Mr. White. And one of the sentences that says, as a result, financial hardship or the health of the property owner is not sufficient cause for granting a variance. And then they say, at the conclusion, a technical review was previously provided by New York State DEC regarding this property and potential eligibility of a LOMA. So what's your status with DEC?
So this is Brian White. We had reached out to the DEC. We had a meeting in Groveland. That's to address the possibility to remove the structure from the floodplain. Following the substantial improvement classification, what Mr. Hamby is focusing on today is the substantial improvement classification itself. Mr. Hamby had hired McMahon Brew Associates to look at options to comply with the substantial improvement. Typically, New York State has the free board requirement, but after speaking with his accountant, it appears that we never crossed the threshold, the 50% or greater threshold.
So if we grant this variance, then they would take that in consideration and grant you a LOMA?
Technically, those are two different topics.
Well, exactly, yeah, that's what.
So, and the primary focus today is a substantial improvement.
Understood, but I just don't want it to be a moot point that, you're chasing something that you're not gonna get from the DEC. And my second question is, the last time you were here, the code enforcement official said that there's something local, floodplain local deal that you have to get through. Is this variance gonna affect that at all? I mean, it can't, as far as we're concerned, it can't.
I don't believe that it can. If the board feels that this was not a substantial improvement, that would essentially dissolve the compliance issues with the structure.
But doesn't it, excuse me, but doesn't that local thing has nothing to do with the substantial improvement, is that correct?
Well, the local code, I think, mimics the state code, is my
It does.
understanding.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to clear that up. It really isn't so to the variance, but, again, I just didn't want you chasing something and find out that you're right back to square one with those other two situations.
I got a question for you. You're trying to get a LOMAR from FEMA, right?
Yeah, as a separate item, we're looking to potentially submit for a LOMA.
So you meet all the requirements? Do you believe you meet all the requirements to get a LOMAR issued by FEMA?
Yes, we do believe we meet those requirements. As a conservative approach to that, we could file a CLOMA, a conditional letter of non-commitment with FEMA. That would be before any changes are physically made to the structure. We would submit that application with our intent and we would provide feedback. They're depending on eligibility for floodplain removal.
Okay.
Anybody else on the screen that wants to jump in? Anybody in the audience would like to speak regarding this matter? Okay, at this point, if you folks could.
I got one thing.
Oh, yep.
When we met at the town of Groveland with the DEC part of FEMA, the plan they came up with, they said did not resolve the issue because the hot water tank was in the flood.
Okay, thank you. All right, if you folks could head out into the corridor, we'll deliberate. Thank you.
Off the
Back on the record, okay. We are now reconvening petition number 2023-0033, Mark Hamby residence. Based upon the evidence and testimony presented, the board has decided to grant the appeal with the notion that there is not substantial improvement present. In accordance with this, strict compliance with the provisions of the Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code would not entail practical difficulties.
They want to, we're going to see the variance.
Sorry. Should have done that earlier. Say it again, David.
Say that.
Okay, so I'm gonna repeat, in accordance with the above findings, strict compliance with the provisions of the Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code would entail practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship and would not be unnecessary in light of alternatives which achieve the intended objective of the code more efficiently, effectively, or economically. And granting of the appeal would not substantially adversely affect the code's provisions for health, safety, and security. The board has decided to grant the appeal, and the evidence presented shows the substantial improvement has not been verified,
It's not going to stay, and that no variance.
has not been established, and therefore no variance is required, and the appeal has been granted. Do I have a motion?
All right, a motion.
Second? At this point, we'll conduct a vote. Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Mr. Clayman?
Yes,
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
John Lyden is also in favor. The appeal is granted. I vote of 5-0. Thank you. Hearing is now concluded. I'd like to add to, for the record, the Department of State has forwarded a statement from them regarding the environmental.
The environmental is a class 2, so you don't have to make that statement.
I don't need to make that.
No, sorry.
Okay, so we're good. Thank you.
David, did you second it?
I did.
Yes.
Okay.
The hearing is now concluded. Thank you.
Off the record.
Thank you. Petition number 2023-0590. Degree Hardy, Richard Ryan III, Corrigan Associates, Architects PC for Syracuse Regional Airport Authority. Nature of grievance and relief sought. Petition pertains to a variance seeking relief for area limitations for the proposed additions to the south concourse at gates 23 and 27, adjacent to the north concourse. Construction 2B, 2 stories in height, known as the Syracuse Hancock International Airport, located at 1000 Cornell Eileen Collins Boulevard, City of Syracuse, County of Onondaga, New York State. The public notice was published in the New York State Register, November 13, 2023 issue. Petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1227, the 2020 existing building code of New York State, Section 502.1, which states, additions to any building or structure shall comply with the requirements of the building code of New York State for new construction. Alterations to the existing building or structure shall be made to ensure that the existing building or structure, together with the addition, are not less complying with the provisions of the building code of New York State than the existing building code or structure was prior to the addition. An existing building, together with its addition, shall comply with the height and area provisions of Chapter 5 of the Building Code of New York State. Petitioner is allowing for area limitations in the south concourse and at pre-1987 south concourse addition and 1987 south concourse addition and at the north concourse 2010 addition and the proposed gate 24/27 addition. Next code section 19 NYCRR Part 1221, the 2020 Building Code of New York State, Section 503.1, which states, unless otherwise specifically modified in Chapter 4 and this chapter, building height, number of stories, and building area shall not exceed the limits specified in Section 504 and 506 based on the type of construction, as determined by section 602 and the occupancies as determined by section 302, except as modified thereafter. Building height, number of stories, and building area provisions shall be applied independently. For the purpose of determining area limitations, height limitations, and type of construction, each portion of a building separated by one or more firewalls complying with section 706 shall be considered to be a separate building. The petitioner requests relief of the following conditions. 1, to allow pre-existing, non-conforming 2-hour firewall located between building H and building G be allowed to install a 3-hour fire-rated shutter to allow for gate 11's addition of 2,400 square feet. 2, for the required rated separations for the north concourse gates 32 through 37 addition and the terminal building with the construction of a new 3-hour rated exterior wall with a parapet wall to a height of 30 feet above the new addition roof. Number 3, to allow that an existing 3-hour fire barrier located at the south concourse and terminal building intersection. Next section, 19 NYCRR Part 1221, the 2020 Building Code of New York State, Section 1109.2, toilet and bathing facilities, which states that each toilet room and the bathing room shall be accessible, or a floor level is not required to be connected by an accessible route. The only toilet rooms or bathing rooms provided within the facility shall not be located on the inaccessible floor, except as provided for in each accessible toilet room and bathing room shall be accessible. Petitioner requests relief to not install the required handicap accessible toilet stalls and showers at the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol employee locker rooms. At this point, you may present your case.
Thank you. Richard Ryan, Associate Principal with Corrigan, 350 Fifth Avenue, Suite 5401, New York, New York.
Farhad Modi, Design PM with Corrigan.
And Cliff Pelton, Director of Facilities for the Syracuse Airport Authority.
And on the line, we have Anru Gu with SGH, our co-consultant, and she's driving our presentation.
I just want to make sure everyone is able to see on the screen, right? So it's there.
Yes, we can, and we can hear you as well.
Great.
Can you go to the next slide, please? Just to orient you where we are, this is the terminal complex, terminals A and B, north concourse, obviously north, south concourse, obviously image south. Next. Zooming here to demonstrate, we've been here before, we wanted to just demonstrate that we have fire department access within minutes of this facility. And that again is manned by the Air Force.
Correct.
I'm sorry, can you tell me who's talking? Because we're sharing the screen, I can't see who's speaking.
Sure, it's Richard Ryan.
Thank you.
Apologize for that. Next slide, please. So our requests are, as we've stated, to allow the existing firewalls as the building separation at 2 locations on the south concourse, to allow the new 3-hour rated exterior wall to serve as the building separation on the north concourse, and to allow the non-accessible CBP employees to toilet, bathing, and locker room facilities in the controlled CBP space, Customs and Border Protection. Drilling in a little bit further, request number 1, the south concourse there. I believe you said building H and G. H, I believe, is the one.
H is the higher
one.
And G is the lower one. For the record, this is Farhad Modi, with Corrigan speaking.
And request two is the expansion area that we discussed the last time we were here, and the 3-hour partition right there. Next slide, please. So, building H and building G, we'll start there. The 1987 plan is correct. Detail an existing 2-hour firewall separation between these two additions. They are both unprotected structures, so to get the area that they needed for both sections of the concourse, they were separated by a 2-hour partition, and that is existing. What we propose to do is remove the swinging fire doors between the two sections and install a sliding wand door that will still be able to be retracted to provide egress.
The rating of that door is?
We're doing a 3-hour. That's what they want.
And this is the alternative to not being able to, they're not putting in a firewall.
Now, the firewall is existing. We are asking that the existing firewall be able to remain with the 3-hour wall opening.
The firewall, I think, was per the previous code definition. It doesn't meet 2020 definition of firewall. So it is a firewall. We are proposing to upgrade by placing a 3-hour sliding fire shutter on the departures level. And we're also open to providing other facilities like we did in the previous application where we had additional sprinkler protection on both sides, et cetera. So we're willing to do all of that to move it along.
And I apologize for it. So this diagram shows the existing 2-hour wall continuous up through the concourse. There was a drive-through to drop the bags in the previous CBP FIS facility, when they were still INS customs. And that was separated by a 2-hour wall as well. That's the lower level right there.
So the existing condition is sprinkled on both sides of the wall?
Correct.
Yes.
Both buildings are fully sprinkled.
What is the benefit of putting the shutter versus this?
Customer service. We have photos that show, there's the opening now. It is 3 sets of double doors. Obviously the center leaves on that assembly are projecting into the concourse. What we propose to do is remove that, replace it with the wand door fire shutter, which is tested as a wall for ASTM standards. And that will provide a better level of customer service.
This is David Flynn. What triggers the closing of that shutter?
It is, there's smoke alarm, there's smoke detectors on either side, and it is also tied into the fire alarm system. There is a battery backup that allows it to function should there be a power outage as well.
And if that shutter closes, you've got people, let's assume on both sides of that shutter.
Right, correct. There is a code compliant paddle push button, if you will, that you hit it, it automatically retracts, utilizing either building power or the battery backup if the power has gone out. Retracts it to a sufficient width for people to egress both sides, and then it closes in after, is it 5-10 seconds?
Yeah, I don't know if I like that idea. That's why I was wondering, because it looks like you have sufficient exits out of that area. Well, you have 4 exits, right?
We do have adequate and separate egress for both buildings on both sides.
I mean, the purpose of a fire shutter when it activates is to keep fire and smoke out, not to open it occasionally or.
Well, you understand that, but these, the same as these doors, are allowing people to egress either.
They're on magnetic hold open, they would be.
They're on magnetic hold as well, yes. These shutters, we've used them in many airports in the past, and they use them in auditoriums, schools, any place of assembly.
So you wouldn't maintain your exit light or anything there, because technically it would be a.
It is a code compliant exit. It doesn't require any special knowledge, because that paddle is just like an ADA, it's ADA approved. Again, we've used them in many jurisdictions.
What's it made out of? Structure?
It's an accordion shutter. I'm not exactly sure what the material is, but it is ASTM tested as a wall, not a door. So it is technically an upgrade to the doors.
The driver, as Rick said, for making this change was the airport's request to open up the sight lines for passengers because they don't know how far their gates are when they're walking down that long concourse.
So I apologize, Juan Ru, were you about to say something?
Yes, I tried to focus on one of the concern or one of our requests here is more to use the existing firewall to be our building separation. Because I think the original Brian's concern is the existing firewall, even though it's built under the 1984 building code, it doesn't fully meet the firewall definition in current code. So that's our main request here is to allow the existing firewall based on old code to be still be our building separation in the new code. Additionally, we want to provide improvement on the existing fire door. We want to replace them as a fire shutter. We have already discussed, touched, like we do have sufficient egress capacity for each portion. So we are not rely on this for our egress. However, because it's a place where the people enter the space, we provide the convenient access for the customer and also for the fire department if needed to access this space through the fire shutter. So it's tested by ASTM E119 as a fire barrier instead of a door assembly. So it's a higher level of fire protection.
Understood, and that traditionally fire shutters are meant to separate buildings for fire and smoke and not to be open and closed. But if you have some new technology, new information, new engineering that you could afford to show the code enforcement official and they would be happy with it, I certainly would be too.
That they have all the
Additionally, we have smoke detectors on either side. The only thing that activates those fire shutters is if either a fusible link or those smoke detectors. That's it. Not automatic fire alarm, because then it still allows egress to people that, where the fire could be on the other side of the concourse. It could be completely away from where this incident is. People could still safely get out through it without having to open the shutter up.
Understood.
So, but if, like I said, I'm not familiar with this particular one, and
Right.
if there's no
And
engineering.
we're not, the request is not to have that allowed. It is to be able to use the existing partitions as the building separation with this added customer service.
Right.
Okay, thank you. We go to the second request is to, still part of request one is this building, building G is separated by an existing 3-hour firewall from the terminal, which is, 2B construction. No, I'm sorry, 1B.
Yeah.
1B, 2B to 1B, so that we are asking that 3-hour separation be allowed to remain as is, as it was built in accordance with the previous code.
With additional measures or?
Yeah, we would be open again to provide additional.
Well, we are not replacing, it doesn't, the configuration there doesn't allow it to receive the same treatment with the shutter as the previous one.
So previously in this scenario, we added sprinkler heads,
Correct, yes.
and that's all. But you're not proposing that as part of your request here today, that you will be bringing in additional heads, right?
This is Cliff Pelton for Director of Facilities for the airport. The existing wall is a 3-hour door, so we're asking for.
It's a different situation than it was on the other side.
It was glass, if I'm not mistaken, we were covering glass with the.
That's the second.
That's the.
But we were doing that, that's why we had for that one.
Yeah.
That was part of it.
Yes.
Yes.
This is gonna be an actual
we're-
wall with a fire shutter.
Well, this one is staying as is.
We're not
We're not replacing.
Oh, okay.
Because we don't have the We don't have the physical space to put in the shuttle.
Okay.
We are using the existing doors and the existing 3-hour wall as constructed under the 84 code.
They currently exist.
Sorry, also important to note here is at the arrivals level, there is a physical separation between the concourse and the head house exterior walls, because there is a drive-through lane. So there's about a 20-foot gap between the two buildings, although they are connected on the departures level.
Via bridge.
Yeah, so the goal is to allow the existing firewall to be the separation between the south concourse and the head house. So we are not doing any change to the existing firewall.
So these are the two components of the first request, because they're similar in nature, we grouped them together.
So the doors would remain hold open, so those.
Correct.
They got it.
If there's no more questions on that, we can move to the second.
Yes.
So is to allow a new 3-hour rated wall between the addition there in gray to be 30 inches above the parapet as we designed. Originally, we designed it as 2 1-hour walls, which is allowed by code, but we were not removing the glass on the existing one. We were building it inside deck to deck. Brian commented on that, and we proposed then saying, okay, we can provide code allowed 3-hour wall on one side as the building separation. You go to the section one.
Yes, I do have it. So I just want to show the site condition on level 1 and level 2. So the level 1, we have to keep the drive outs to be access underside of our new added expansion. So it's not feasible to provide an extended firewall here. But we will have a 3-hour exterior wall above on the level 2.
Thank you, it's a good point.
So is your increased parapet an attempt to offer fire stoppage from moving?
Correct. We are proposing a 3-hour wall to extend from the slab up to the 30 inches above the parapet.
So that's for current code. We are following the rules for a firewall regarding the parapet and at the departures level, but we need to keep the lower portion open for tugs.
So this is David Flynn speaking. So we have a tug pulling through here and 4 lithium-ion batteries that somebody's luggage go up and the tug is stuck. Can't move underneath the building in this area. We don't have the firewall on the one end, right? Because it's open. Is there adequate protection in the envelope for that tugway?
Yeah, so our new addition at gate 27 is fully sprinklered. So the soffit is sprinklered.
The drive system.
Yeah, we have the drive system. Yeah.
Underneath total.
Yes. And these are just representing the proposed conditions. There's no questions. We're going to move on to the third request.
Looks like we can move on.
Sure. The third is to allow non-accessible CBP employee only toilet, bathing, and locker facilities within the CBP controlled space. Next slide, please. This is the area in question. We are providing a accessible shower and toilet facility in the block there. We are asking for relief in providing accessible lockers due to space constraints and confirmation from the CBP that the CBP officers are required to be fit for duty. That's what they say, and they do not require accessible lockers. But we are providing restroom, and a shower facility.
Toilets, showers, hand sinks, all
Correct.
accessible.
Except the lockers.
Yeah, except for the lockers.
Well, we have one, common use accessible restroom and showers, room at the bottom.
Right, so that's.
And then there's a lactation room, mother's room on the left, down below, and above is where we have the non-accessible facilities. So those stalls, sinks and lockers are not accessible currently. But this is in a CBP officer back of house use space only. All of the public facing facilities are fully accessible within the FIS.
So it's unisex, or I see.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So does that unisex bathroom satisfy the code for that area? Other than the lot?
Other than the.
Yes,
Other than the lot?
yes, yeah.
John, I got a question for you. We can't issue a variance for ADA requirements. Federal law.
As long as it's a code requirement, we could issue a variance for, aren't we citing the code reference?
Yeah, we're citing, this is David Flynn, we're citing the state code. You're correct, though, if there's a compliance issue with the ADA, or this variance is of no value.
Right?
Yeah, that's something separate, the ADA requirements.
So you might get in trouble with that aspect.
Yeah.
It's probably been through that kind of, thing before.
Right.
I've issued variances for ADA before.
Yeah, but I mean, if he gets bundled up with someone coming down and suing him, then that's their business,
Yeah, correct.
right?
That's correct.
I mean, just for the heck of it, you would think that you elevate two lockers up a couple feet and get the lever handle on there and you're done, but. not that simple.
It's the space requirements in front of them. It's not.
Looks like you gotta know, but that's not my concern. Okay.
Yeah, we will definitely take another look at it. Where the stalls are concerned, it's very tight. So unless we eliminate one, which we really can't because of the quantities that are required, we can't combine those two into a bigger accessible stall.
Peter Klayman here, the separate handicap toilet is a very typical solution in a lot of tight spaces.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You guys have anything additional? Want to conclude with?
This is Brian Thompson. Mr. Chairman, I'm with the city of Syracuse. I'm not sure if you have any other questions for the petitioner, but if not, I would be happy to provide some feedback.
Yes, please do.
Okay, and I'll just try to go in the order that this was presented to you in. I did write a letter on dated December 13th. At the time, there were less items in the petition, and I think the petition likely changed because of this letter. So I'd just like to go back. I'm not sure if you've been provided with this letter or not, so I'll just quick touch on a few items. In terms of the both, I know you heard this, I believe it might have been your last hearing in October. You heard the petition regarding the North Concourse, and basically, again, for additions, the code requires compliance with Chapter 5. Chapter 5 specifically states a firewall complying with 706, which is the code for new construction, can be used to divide buildings. It doesn't allow separations or firewalls not meeting the current Chapter 7 of the building code to be used. So, but with that said, the city does support for this item 1, the use of this previous firewall, fire barrier that likely just doesn't meet the structural components that would allow collapse on one side without collapse on the other. The city also agrees with there's a lot of discussion about this. What's a wand door? It's a brand name, but it's basically a sliding shutter, a power operated sliding shutter. We have them elsewhere in our municipality. We have for years. They've been around for at least 10 years. They're not quite the newest technology, but yes, they do work. They are tested. They are listed. They do require maintenance and testing. They are programmed to open based on a rate of over a certain time period at a certain speed based on the needs that are programmed into them. I know there was some talk about just having that be a drop-down shutter, and actually the city would be more concerned and feel that there would be additional relief necessary if it was just a drop-down shutter that could not reopen based on some accessibility requirements egress requirements specific to assembly. So egress requirements specific to assembly, I think it's 1029.2. You need a main assembly door and that would be the main entry. So you need a main exit that can accommodate at least 50% of the people, even though the other 4 exits that are provided for that end of the South Concourse are would likely accommodate the entire occupant load. We do believe it does need to open. We have no issue with the fact that it's a wand door, although we would ask that you don't specify in the determination anything more than an opening protective, just in case there was a change, the airport had a change of heart. We don't want to limit them to a specific brand or style of opening protective, rather just classify it as an opening protective. And it just to hopefully prevent confusion down the road. As we would move kind of clockwise down the existing firewall, again, there is something that hasn't been talked about, not that it really matters, but there's a small overhang addition that will be going on the main terminal. And again, it's the different construction types, type 1B versus the type 2B that, again, unless we have a firewall meeting the current codes, especially with regards to structural stability, where you can collapse on one side without collapse on the other. We just need, and that's the reason that I'm sure they're seeking relief. The city has no comment, no issues with what's being proposed, just to allow the existing to remain, just as long as it is all 3-hour fire barrier to be used in lieu of a 3-hour firewall. As moving over to the exterior wall at the North Concourse, directly adjacent to the previous petition, we would, no issues with what's being proposed. We would just ask that the fire or the parapet would be measured to the higher of the 2 roof surfaces rather than just the expansion roof surface, which I believe has a lower roof height. So it may need to be extended up, I believe, somewhere in the general range of a foot or so, based on the original plans that were sent around for this, which may slightly differ than the plans that were presented today, but no issue with that. Moving down to the locker rooms, there was some talk of does that main, that central or single user toilet facility meet code or alleviate the other 2 bathrooms from being compliant? And the answer is no, it doesn't. These are all new bathrooms. These are not existing facilities. So everything that you see is new in this page. So in terms of whether you want to grant this or not, I would just not like my name tied to anything supporting something for accessibility. I think it just doesn't look good on me, where the idea of something being accessible is to provide a reasonable accommodations, and to not provide them is, it could be construed as discriminatory, and I just don't want my name tied to anything supporting that. But if you do choose or believe that they have a case for relief, then please grant it. I will happily enforce whatever relief is granted. But I do believe it's more than just the locker. It is the fact that these are new shower and toilet facilities and would be required to be accessible based on 1109.2. There was no exception in there. Whether or not they meet the ABA, which is the American Barriers Act of 1968, or the ADA, that would, things we don't enforce on a local level here. We enforce the uniform code and the prescriptive A17.1 standard. So unless you have questions for me, that's all I have.
It's Rick Andrews, number one, the number one there regarding the fire shutter, I agree with what you're saying. I think if we grant the variance, it would be called a 3-hour opening protective, because a fire shutter, just by its nature, is a fire shutter. When it shuts, it shuts. It's not supposed to be opened and closed. And so I agree with what you said there. I think if we grant the variance, we will put that wording in. I think the first variance also, the area that they're keeping the same, would you like to see those special sprinklers over the glazing areas? Or is there glazing areas there?
No,
There are, okay.
No, there is no.
Okay, that's a good point. And so what you're saying on the bathrooms is that if they were existing, that the excuse me, the proposed handicap bathroom would satisfy the code, but the fact that they're new, that doesn't satisfy the code. Is that correct?
This might be a little nitpicky, but not exactly. It says, so the existing building code says if you're modifying a bathroom, it has to be made accessible. If it's technically infeasible to modify that, then you could add an additional unisex bathroom to fulfill that need, because it would be, impracticable to modify that first, or near impossible to modify the first. Again, it's technically infeasible. In this case here, there could be nothing technically infeasible if the spaces are new spaces. So yes, if it was an existing room and it was technically infeasible to modify, then the code would allow, and that's chapter 3 of the existing building code, would allow that additional unisex bathroom in lieu of modifying those existing. But they would have to be existing, and it would have to be technically infeasible to modify them. So.
Thank you. So this is David Flint. You guys need to give us some justification, if this is new build, why you can't comply with the code as it relates to accessibility.
So the space, because of space constraints and the program that we were provided by the CPP, that we needed to fit in the space without taking up a lot more area, which would cause more financial hardship to the airport. Keeping that footprint, that did not allow us to provide, to have the space to provide accessible.
And what are we talking in terms of like additional costs, just ballpark? I don't know, to expand the footprint so that you could have fully compliant.
Could be hundreds of thousands.
So I think,
It would impact other tenants as well.
Yeah, it's taking, so the CVP doesn't technically lease the space.
Correct.
Correct, so it takes leasable space from other tenants and through the area.
so I mean, going along with David's point, so I'm looking at the blue and the pink beige there. And I understand your comment that the space square footage limitations doesn't allow for easily making it accessible. I mean, we haven't seen evidence of that study by you. What is your position regarding why this should not need to be 100% accessible in those 2 rooms based upon the usage of this area?
So this is Cliff Pelton, Director of Facilities for the airport. We've been working with the CBP and Corrigan team for several months on this design. and they've approved this design with regards to their requirements that all their employees are fit for duty and that they require what we've provided and what they've approved. The Corrigan team added the extra facility to make sure that in the event we were completely covered by adding that other bathroom for a compliancy for ADA, as well as, family use style bathroom. So CBP, FAA regulated, they've approved our design and so we feel that, we've met all the requirements. I don't know if that answers your question or. Okay.
I mean, I get it's an answer, but I don't know.
I mean, I thought they were existing originally, and so the fact that they're new, I mean, that mixed use or the unisex, I mean, you could take that out and make the whole space handicap accessible as far as the female goes. Incorporate that lactate station or whatever it is into the same footprint, but yet get it so that that's handicap accessible. I mean,
That's a requirement from CBP.
well, I could see you having it there, but I mean.
Those, you have to have both.
But,
That makes sense.
As designed.
okay, sure.
You have to have a lactation room and
Unisex.
unisex bathroom.
But you could make the male unisex, right? The whole male locker room unisex. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I didn't realize they were new.
Yeah,
I thought they
they
were.
are new, and it's only a function of cost to be able to revise the design and make them accessible.
So this is David Flynn. I think the circumstances are helpful in the sense that it's not a public restroom. It's just an off area for CBP only. CBP is comfortable with it. But I think us having an understanding that to fully comply would have a significant economic burden as well. It is important because we need to, you hear, we have to justify a variance. So understand, I mean, if we're talking, $5,000 and you could have a fully compliant, that puts us in a different position versus, $500,000 and expanding footprints and shutting down other tenants in order to accomplish it. That is a more compelling basis to it.
It would be an impact to our airlines.
It would what?
It would be an impact to our airlines and the existing tenants that are in that area.
That's a nice general statement. And I mean, in new construction, it's possible that they get a person at a desk who reworks this in a day and a half, and the cost is, maybe it's 20% more, 30% more. I don't think you're talking hundreds of thousands.
If we had to make the footprint bigger.
No footprint bigger, working with what you have.
Keep in mind, every change we do has to go back through the FAA for full review and approval, similar to this, and it could also delay the project by months. And that it would be an impact to a grant that we've been given for this, so that's a New York State DOT grant. So extending the potential build for this project would potentially make us lose that grant funding. So it would take this, could impact $5 million if we lose the grant.
Okay. So tell me, how many people use this, who are they, and where do they work?
So this is a Customs and Borders, so they are federal agents.
How many?
It varies depending on
Approximately
15
people.
per shift.
Per shift.
So
Utilizing these facilities, 15 people. Nobody else is.
it's badged. The airport doesn't even have access to this. It's a federal regulated location. My badge as the director won't even give me access to this facility.
So it's 15 people. And the idea is that it's very unlikely that one of these 15 people are going to be in a wheelchair or.
It doesn't meet the requirements. They have to be fit for duty, so they have to meet the requirements for fit for
And they
duty.
get that right.
We have it from CBP.
From our PM in the CBP who we are liaising with on the design.
So it's a requirement for the job.
And I think the strongest argument is this applies to 15 people. That's the strongest argument on the table at this point. for you, not cost or anything else. So,
And there is a handicap compliant three-piece restaurant, in close proximity.
In the same area.
Can you go to the colored plate, please, Conlon? That's the controlled access is from those double doors.
To the left.
okay, anything additional from the board? Anybody in the audience want to speak on this matter? Anybody on the screen want to speak on this matter? Finally? How about you guys, you want to conclude?
No, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Okay, so at this point, if you guys can head out into the corridor, we'll deliberate. Thank you.
Off the record. On the record.
We'll now resume petition number 2023-0590. Based upon the testimony and documentation presented, the board makes the following findings of fact. Number one, subject petition pertains to the proposed additions to the South Concourse Building H and the intersection of the terminal building and North Concourse to be known as Gates 27 of the Syracuse Hancock International Airport, located at 1000 Cornell Eileen Collins Boulevard, City of Syracuse, County of Onondaga, New York State. The airport has dual function as a civil military airport since its inception in 1928. Number two, the petitioner states that given its dual function as a civil military airport and numerous alterations since its inception, many construction documents are unavailable, leaving past code strategies ambiguous. Number three, the building that is the subject of the petition, the South Concourse Buildings G and H, are correctly classified per Part 1221, Section 602.2, as Type 2B construction, 2 stories in height, and the existing 1987 expansion, which is Building H, extending east from the existing concourse, Building G, and resulted in an area of 14,786 square feet increase on each level, with the upper level fully sprinkled. Number four, the building subject to the petition is correctly classified per Section 303.4. Assembly Group A3 includes assembly uses intended for waiting areas and transportation terminals, and Group A2 occupancy includes assembly uses intended for food and or drink consumption, including but not limited to restaurants and similar dining facilities. Number five, the petitioner states the addition to Gate 11 expansion and interior alterations that include new toilet facilities on the far eastern end of the South Concourse. The AHJ has determined that Gate 11 addition of approximately 2,400 square feet would exceed the allowable area and states that the lower of first floor is not sprinklered and thus exceed the allowed tabular area. Table 506.2, 9,500 square feet, where the design team applies the sprinkler multiple stories, 28,500 square feet. Number six, petitioner states that this project centers on the enhancement of the Federal Inspection Station, FIS, and the renovation and expansion of the North Concourse at Syracuse Hancock International Airport. This expansion encompasses an added 4,560 square feet waiting area at gates 23 and 27 of the North Concourse, as delineated in blue in Figure 1, Exhibit A, and the expansion of the South Concourse. Number seven, petitioner seeks to allow at the new gates 23 and 27 Type 2B construction addition a new 3-hour exterior wall running parallel to the existing Type 1B construction exterior unrated terminal wall in lieu of the required 2-hour walls for the structure with a 0 distance setback. Number eight, The petitioner states in the narrative that an expansion of 4,560 square feet for additional waiting space for gates 23 and 27 at the intersection of the North Concourse and east face of the terminal. The designers propose to construct a 3-hour rated wall to abut the east face of the terminal wall in lieu of demolishing a security corridor and reconstructing a 2-hour rated exterior wall, with the parapet wall projecting 30 inches above the highest roof where abutting the two structures. Number 9, the petitioner states previous construction records indicate 2 expansions for the South Concourse connection to the central head house or terminal, as illustrated in figure 2. The first, in 1987, extended the westward connection, where Exhibit A denotes that a 2-hour firewall was constructed between Building G and the 1987 addition Building H, thus complying with the allowed area for a Type 2B/A2 construction. Number 10, the petitioner seeks to install a 3-hour opening protection at the existing 2-hour fire barrier at the public level, second floor. The Syracuse code official states that a 3-hour door type be used. The SCO offers an alternative if a fire shutter that allows access is unavailable. Number 11, the petitioner requests that to address the Syracuse Code Office's comments on the western portion of the South Concourse and terminal building intersection, that the existing 3-hour fire-rated barrier at the lower level and the 2-hour existing barrier be allowed in lieu of the required 3-hour firewall to separate the terminal building and the South Concourse building. The Buffalo Board has granted a variance allowing the existing 3-hour rated fire barrier to substitute for a 3-hour firewall as defined in 1221-2000, section 706, petition 2023-0521. Number 13, the petitioner requests to not install the required handicap accessible toilet stalls and showers at the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol employee locker rooms, section 1109.2. In that, all employees could not perform their work duties if physically disabled. This does not satisfy the ADA requirements. Number 14, City of Syracuse's code office does not object to granting other variants, given that they were permitted at the time of construction and the overall terminal had to be considered as separate buildings to comply with the allowable area. Number 15, the petitioner states that the legally permitted constructions are allowed to remain. The underlying principle of the existing building code emphasizes that constructions previously approved should be allowed to persist without modifications. The current building employs the 1987 firewall as a compliant firewall between building G and H separation. The Syracuse code official requests that a 3-hour door type barrier be allowed, as a 3-hour rated fire shutter may not allow for an egress method through the shutter when deployed. Number 16, the terminal is equipped with robust active fire protection measures. The building is fully sprinklered with the fire sprinkler system coverage. The likelihood of severe fire spread is markedly reduced. The layout of the North Concourse, the fire department has access to the building from almost all sides the fire department is on. Number 17, the petitioner states that past and present alterations and additions have attempted to comply with all applicable codes. Number 18, the City of Syracuse Code Office has been consulted in this manner and has provided provisions that the city would request be included in these conditions. In view of the above findings.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, you may.
should we not add a provision that says This variance applies only to the requirements that New York State Building Code does not affect like federal ADA requirements.
I mean, I did include does not meet ADA requirements. I did say that.
Okay, sorry, I missed it.
It's okay. It was in number 13. We haven't seen one. Yes, we did get that in there. So, in view of the above findings, testimony, and documentation presented before it, the board finds strict compliance with the code would entail practical difficulties, unnecessary hardship, or would otherwise be unwarranted because such would create an excessive and unreasonable economic burden, would be fiscally or legally impractical, or would entail a change so slight as to produce a negligible additional benefit consonant with the purpose of this code. The granting of this variance will not substantially adversely affect the Uniform Codes provisions for health, safety, and security. At this point, we will have a motion to approve.
I so move. Rick
Second.
Andrews.
Rick Andrews, second David Flynn. At this point, we'll conduct our vote. Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Mrs. Jenny?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
John Lydon is also in favor. The variance is granted by a vote of 5-0. This particular variance only applies to the case before us at this time. At this point, the hearing is concluded. Thank you.
Thank you.
On the record. On the record.
Next hearing, petition number 2023-0514, the aggrieved party T.Y. Lin International Engineering and Architecture P.C. The nature of the grievance and the relief sought. The petition pertains to a proposed residential development known as the Villas at Brandon Woods, Section 2. The proposed development contains 1 2-unit building, 4 3-unit townhouse buildings, and 21 4-unit townhouse buildings that are of type 5B construction, 2 stories in height, and located in the town of Sweden, Monroe County, state of New York. Petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR, Part 1225, the 2020 Fire Code of New York State, Section D 107.1, which states that developments of 1 or 2 family dwellings where the number of dwelling units exceeds 30 shall be provided with 2 separate and approved fire apparatus access roads. The exceptions, number 1, construction of dwellings on premises which have had local site plan approval prior to January 1, 2011, with no modification to approved site plan. Number 2, where there are more than 30 dwelling units on a single public or private fire apparatus access road, all the dwelling units are equipped throughout with an automatic sprinkler system in accordance with Section 903.3.1.1 and Section 903.3.1.2 or 903.3.1.3. Access from 2 directions shall not be required. Number 3, the number of dwelling units on a single fire apparatus access road shall not be increased unless the fire apparatus access road will connect to a future development as determined by the fire code official. The petitioner is seeking relief from the requirement that a second fire apparatus access road be provided, and if not provided, that the dwelling units be equipped with an automatic sprinkler system. At this point, you may present your case.
Good morning. First of all, thank the board today for the time. Gentlemen.
Can I have your name, please?
Sorry. My name is Steve Luciardello. I'm one of the owners of the Alamo project.
My name is Rob Laviano.
Needs an address. Oh, I'm sorry. We're at 30 Forest Creek Drive, Spencerport, New York, 14559.
Can I have the spelling of your last names? I'm sorry for the record.
Sure, you know, it's LICCIARDELLO.
Thank you. And Rob, your last name?
It's L-A-V like Victor, I-A-N-O.
Thank you.
So, yes, present your case, please.
So, again, kind of nervous, don't do this on a regular basis. Forgive us. As I was saying, good morning, thank you for your time today. Gentlemen, we acquired phase 2 of this existing project back in 2019. It was previously approved back in 2017. Prior to purchasing the property, I did my due diligence, talked to the necessary people of the town, project engineer, and there was no mention of sprinklers ever needed on that section. In 2007, there was no requirement for sprinklers. During that time, the town requested an extension because the plans weren't, updated, as far as signatures. And this discussion, the previous fire marshal mentioned that, maybe sprinklers may be required, but he thought it would only be required in the cul-de-sac area. Because his thought was that there's an intersection that leads up to the cul-de-sac area. He's like, well, I think it's just gonna get them in the back area because the intersection would start their count of how many units we did sprinkler. Then he said, well, I'm not sure if that's actually going to be the case because there's a stub road that is at the end of the road. He's saying that stub road might preclude the need for sprinklers. So he kind of wasn't really sure. After a little while, he kind of changed his mind and thought that more units needed to be sprinklered. So really didn't really give us any direction. Fortunately, the new fire marshal / code enforcement officer, supports this variance and was willing to grant this relief that we needed on his own. But after speaking to the town attorney, he thought it would be better coming from the state level rather than from the local level. So that's why we're here today.
As you know, our application for the variance rests upon the fact that we are in a extremely precarious financial situation. We are required to put in the sprinklers as the town would like us to. The unfortunate fact is that because we had progressed with our project, purchased the land, gone through the approval process and secured all of our funding for the sprinklers were not contemplated at that time. So unfortunately, all of our funding is in place now. We did speak to the bank about potentially what the potential for increasing our budget would be, and if we could kind of go back to the well and make some changes. And well, unfortunately, the budget doesn't allow for that. Between the cost of the sprinklers themselves, which we did receive some estimates, which I believe they were passed on from with the application, and the increased costs of the interest on the cost of the sprinklers themselves, it would be upwards of $1 million over the course of the project. And given the numbers that the bank looked at, they looked at our what they call a debt service coverage ratio and how able we are to cover our monthly payments, and also the I think they called it a loan to value ratio. And they said if you were to increase your budget by this amount, unfortunately, you're going to go under your one number, the debt service coverage ratio. You won't be able to make your payments. And if you go also include these numbers, you'll be over the 70% threshold on your loan to value. So long story short, we're in a bit of a pickle in terms of being able to fund the need for the sprinklers. They essentially said that we're not in a position right now where we'd be able to go back and change our financing. It's not something that the numbers would not work if we were to do that, given the new costs associated with it. And if we were to deviate from that or try to find funding elsewhere, they would need a written approval, which they wouldn't be enthusiastic about granting because, again, the numbers don't work, and they could call in our loan altogether. So in terms of the flip side, where we might be able to look at raising rents, unfortunately, we're in a pickle there as well because, again, the budget calls for the rents that we're at. The market is only calling for certain rents, and it would essentially price us out of the market that we're in Brockport. there is a new construction project down the road that doesn't have sprinklers, and so they have a little bit of a competitive edge in terms of their prices, and here we are.
So are they over 30 units down the road?
They are,
And they have 2 fire access roads?
I don't know, I don't think so, but
But that's the issue, right? It's the fire access roads. If you don't provide 2, then you got a sprinkler. It's not like you have to sprinkler because sprinklers are required. You have to sprinkler because apparently you cannot give us a second fire access road, right?
we don't own the land that's to the west of us. That would be the next phase of our project, acquiring that land and continuing on. We talked to our engineer about the feasibility of that as well, and he did indicate that that's, the potential future development is there and that we would continue west when the land becomes available. They even said that someone else develops that site, they would incorporate our extension into their project. There would be no way for them to build there without going through our project connecting to us, which would provide the second access road. They said there's only a small chance that the site never gets developed or developed in such a way that it couldn't connect with our project. That's something the town would require as well.
So have you approached, I think I saw Walmart or whoever else is adjacent to your property, you approached them about the idea of providing you an easement for a road, compensating you, et cetera? Have you looked at that?
We had not talked to someone specifically about that. We talked to the town about that as well, and I don't think that property is for sale at the moment, so.
For sale and an easement of 20 feet are 2 different things.
It's a pretty long distance from what we saw in the plans, and
We did pursue that with the town inspector. He said that, the only chop we have is going out west from the stub road is, and unfortunately, that's not for sale. Everything else is pretty much got housing around it, so you'd almost have to put out a house to get access out front of the road. But they're saying that stub road, the town is gonna mandate that stub road continues forward, that it made utilities, the road, everything is for the next phase. So now that this project is done, I think that's gonna take it all.
Yeah, I mean, when I looked over the plans, plots, et cetera, sitting here right now, I'm not convinced that you explored all of the alternatives that might allow a second fire access road to enter your complex.
This is Dave Flynn. If I heard you correctly, you said that the fire marshal is in agreement with the variance, but just wanted a variance from this board and couldn't or didn't want to do it on their own.
I think that the town was just concerned from a liability standpoint.
Is there, I'm going through the package and I'm not seeing the documentation of that. Is there a letter in there?
There is, yes. He said we get a supporting documentation. And as I said previously, he was willing to grant the relief needed. But also speaking to the town attorney says, I think that, I don't know if this is real.
So can you show us where that letter is?
This is.
That's the code enforcement this questionnaire.
Here's the letter from you, and it doesn't state that he's in favor of it. He's just stating the facts.
Yeah, I don't see him saying point blank. This is Peter Klein talking. I don't see him in our paperwork saying point blank. I would recommend that the board approve this.
Oh.
Because unfortunately, we board members have to get good information from the local fire chief, because fire protection issues at various locations there are quite divergent.
Mr. Clement, I understand what you're saying, and we did have a discussion with him. He does support this. He actually thought about coming. He supposedly filled out some affidavit saying that he supports this, but we could try to get him on the phone.
Well, it's an application, but he puts no, that he's, yes.
You get him on the phone.
Can we get him on the phone?
I'd like to hear from him, sure.
Can I ask a couple questions while we're waiting for something like that?
Keep going.
So what is the distance now? So what is actually there now? Has anything built? Has anything been built at all on this?
So phase one is complete.
It's done.
Was done by the previous.
So that's phase one, that's this plan right here that has, Nathaniel Drive or something that goes out to Nathaniel Pool Drive, that goes out to some main drag, right? That's completed?
Section 1 is completed, yes.
And then there's a road that goes, looks like It's called,
Wood trace.
Wood Trace, that's all done?
The
Those units are all in?
the first part of that was part of phase one, and then our section, section
So,
two.
but this is all done. This is all on this plan from 2007, it looks like.
From 2007, that section one is completed.
This
That's
is
the
all
previous
complete.
developer.
Okay, up to lot 4. You start at lot 9, is that where you start? It looks like that on this looks like it's first phase.
Phase one is completed, yes, I can see the different.
There you go, okay. So then my next question is, how far is it from this Nathaniel Pool Drive to the end of the cul-de-sac? You know what that distance is? It would be from way up here, all the way around, down and out to here. And the reason they didn't require you to sprinkler in 2007 is because this was going to extend further at some time? Because there is an exception in there if it's going to extend.
Our understanding was both reasons. It was the fact that in 2007,
Well, the code,
fire code.
you're correct, it doesn't require sprinklers, but it does say about a second means of egress. They can require that.
That
So they must have
that
been
was the
thinking,
secondary reason.
they must have been,
Rick, it's a second fire apparatus road.
yes,
not-
in 2000, yes, second fire apparatus access road. So the 2007 code allowed it, if the code enforcement felt it was required, that he could require it. But they probably used this, I'm just guessing, that they used this road extension as that secondary was going to extend eventually in the future. And so my question is, do you have approximation how far this is to this dead end? So we're talking considerable distance there. Do you know what it is offhand? I didn't measure it out. I'm sure there's specification. Do you know what your lot sizes are approximately?
I'm just guesstimating 1,500 feet.
1,500.
Yes.
Yeah. So, the next question I had is that, see the guy here. So it's very similar to what John talked about, Mr. Leiden talked about regarding the, looking into going off into this area here where Walmart is with an a fire access road, 20-foot wide and with easements. We have them all over our town because they have to comply with this regulation. So it doesn't have to be a roadway, official roadway. It's a fire access road. It's strictly for emergencies. We have gates, triangular gates on them with locks, fire department locks. And they're only used for emergencies.
So there is more than one way in. If you're thinking about entrance to Walmart is all the way to the north of the site. So there is two different ways to come in from a Walmart. You can come in from the Walmart.
Well, but if you could get that, an access to that from in here somewhere, you would then, I don't know what's the distance of the cul-de-sac?
Can I come over there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. I'm wondering what the distance of the cul-de-sac is.
It looks like the cul-de-sac road is 1,100.
1,100 feet?
So,
So in here, there's more than 30, right?
yeah, Walmart's up in here.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, way up.
Way up in here. So there is, where this road comes in right here, there is two, you can actually see the intersection here. You can either come in this way or you can come in this way. There is two different access points here. So getting to.
So in here, there's more than 30 units. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what he's really saying is that this needs to be sprinkled. These don't, because this might extend out someday.
So originally, what the original fire marshal was saying is that because he thought this was an entrance and that was an entrance, he was just gonna have us sprinkler the cul-de-sac. It was the original thought process. So then came back and he said, geez, I'm not sure, now maybe you gotta sprinkler more.
Yeah,
And he ended up leaving the department, and the new fire marshal / code enforcement officer is like, I support not needing them at all, because originally in 2007, when this was all developed, it was not required. So he goes, I support not needing the variance.
But
he
this
says,
was accepted in 2021, right?
well, we had to go in for the formalities just to sign the plans, because the town approvals will expire after so many.
But you got your subdivision, your.
All the subdivision was done in 2007. So we we were before the time of the change. This was all done in 2007. Everything was designed.
When was this cul-de-sac approved?
2007.
Approved as is.
Correct.
See, I'm not 100% convinced that that approval applied to these new units. Though your master plan showed them, that approval may have only applied to others.
Yeah, the master, because usually when you do a subdivision, you know, not that I've done a lot of them, but usually they'll do an overall, you know, like section 1, 2, 3, and 4, because they want to know what the big picture is going to be. So they all, yeah, so they approve the overall, and then you go back and you get the sections kind of, you know, signed, sealed, and delivered as it goes on. But when I bought this, I went to the town, I went to the engineer, there was never any mentions of sprinklers, because they're like, that was 2007, you know, there's no sprinklers. You know, and then they kind of backpedaled and started changing their mind, which isn't fair to a developer like.
Well, number one, there's two things in there in defense of them is, number one, the subdivision map, the final plat, if that isn't issued until now, that would come under the new code. And also, when these come in for building permits, now they're coming in for building permits, the builder or the fire code official has to say, this goes back to, you know, you need sprinklers, because the new building code calls for that. You didn't get building permits back then.
Right, you can't. You
All you got was lots that were accepted.
Can you assist me in understanding this map? This road presently stops there.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the access road that is highly likely to get developed here. Now that this is complete, we've spent the money to bring in the water and the sewer and the gas and electric. So now this is a no-brainer to develop. And once this is developed, that will give us another secondary means of.
So I understand that, and that's why I said these units would not have to be sprinklered based on that exception in the code. But this area is still dead-ended, and it still would would have to meet the code. I mean, as far as
Rick,
my interpretation.
would this utility easement lend itself to
Yes,
being
that would,
turned
yes.
into a fire access road?
Fire access road, definitely.
Okay.
That, and those were other things that I was gonna bring up. If there's some way you could tie this back in with an emergency access road, it could be a walking path, you know, make it look like a walking path, but make it an emergency access road where the fire department could get over here if they had to. If this was blocked by a truck, an accident, of snow, a tree fell over, or whatever, this would be a second means of egress to get to these people. If that's the case, you don't need sprinklers. Come up with something like that.
It is a little challenging.
It might a little bit of redesign.
It is challenging. It's hard to see on this, it's a 30-something foot elevation drop from here to here.
Okay.
So it's really tough to get a road.
Even then,
You know what I mean? I don't think a road would, and again, we spoke to the.
it's more of an access, it's a fire access road. I mean, it may never be used, but it's there in case anything would happen.
We spoke to the fire chief as well. He's also in support of this, saying that he would never see the reason to have to use a secondary means of entrance when, you know, this is gonna be developed, this will develop. Furthermore, there's hundreds of these in the town that only have one source of egress, egress.
Similar to our town.
Yeah.
But then once the code changed.
Can you get him on the phone?
I sure can, yes, sir.
Let's try that
Yeah.
and see if he.
So is there understanding, Mr. Chairman, that he does have the authority to grant this relief on his own? Is that my understanding, sir?
No.
No? Okay.
Now, what we're looking for is for the guys that are in charge to show us that based upon this scenario, the firefighters and everybody involved is comfortable with this. They don't have an issue, even though the code says otherwise, this scenario, which is not on page 233 of the building code, your scenario is not, that they're comfortable with it based on all that's before.
I think that's a.
Even though it's a code requirement.
Are you looking up Mr. Stirk, is it?
Yes, Lyle.
So according to this letter, he's saying that if you don't put the road, you have to put the sprinklers. Basically what he's saying in this letter.
I mean, that's good on the horn.
Yeah.
If you see what he says.
You know,
I think that's why when we
We're skeptical.
worked with Jim Burton over at T by Land, and he had advised us that really the road is, although it seems like it's gonna happen, and, you know, we look to the future, really
Well, that's a
basis.
total,
Yeah.
there's two different situations here. That would relieve you of sprinkling all those buildings on that road.
Sure.
But when it comes to the cul-de-sac, that's a totally different
Well,
situation.
that's why the way that he had assisted us with our petition, he had said that this is really more, the relevant aspect for you is that this is an economic hardship because of the fact that you're funding not so much, not so much the access road, because that's, although it seems like a given, that's not something that we can really offer up at this time. But really for, the nature of your petition is based on the economic hardship, which I think you've clearly shown me, and that we'll convey that to the board. So I think that's really our focus here more than the access road.
Well, yes, we're trying to, hypothetically, we deny that, but in the meantime, maybe we're trying to give you a little leeway here with this phone call, et cetera, so you just don't get denied and you're done. So we're trying to, yes, that's what's before us. You're saying it's a financial hardship. Well, that's not guaranteed it's gonna fly when we book.
Sure.
But in the meantime, we're trying to find other information that might make us a little more understanding for the relief that you're seeking.
So while he's waiting for him on the phone, the units in the cul-de-sac area, are they all townhouses?
Yes, they're all.
So how are you building the townhouse? You're building them under the building code?
Yes.
New York?
Yes, sir.
So you're gonna have to have party walls?
2 hour fire
You're gonna have to
separation.
keep separate, utilities going
Yes.
to each individual one?
Yes, they all
So, having said that, if you did sprinkler those buildings, you wouldn't need to do all that. The fire separations now become 2 hour. They're not they're not party walls, they're not fire separation, they're not fire walls. You also don't have to worry about utilities. You can run utilities straight through and drop them in each one of the units. So there's substantial savings there alone. And I gotta dispute your number of $1 million for all those units to be sprinkled. That can't be correct.
Well, that's just based on the cost that we got, I think both the estimates are in the package that T. Lynn helped prepare. So the cost of the sprinklers themselves, were between 213 and 410,000.
Right.
Those are the actual costs. But then when you factor in the fact that obviously since we don't have the funds to pay for this on our own, and we've secured funding for that, then when you take into account the interest payments on that and then the cost to
But that's not the cost of the sprinkler system.
it's what the cost of the sprinkler system would do to the project and the feasibility of the project, though. That's the $1.1 million figure, which we're unfortunately don't have the ability to absorb.
What is that number based on? How many units?
Based on 76 units.
Like I said, it's been proven in our town especially that we always offer that to the architects and engineers. You can build them under the building code, or you can build them under the fire, the fire prevention code, or build a regular building code for multiple residents. And sprinkler them, and that does away with all those party walls, which have to be masonry, and you have a lot more expense there. And then,
well, they're actually our walls are shaft walls.
Well, shaft.
So yeah, they're not as involved as the they
it's
do
still more expensive.
Yeah, they do currently have the 2 hour fire separation, but the differential there is not as great as we would unfortunately think.
It's Peter Kleiman here. So your business model is to sell the unit?
No, these are for rent, sir.
Those are for rent.
These are for rent.
So that, Rick is very correct in that you have the option of being in a residential building code or in the, regular building code. And if you're in a regular building code, you, as a multiple dwelling, you have significantly less costs to, separate the units.
And to run your utilities. Utilities can be expensive to run them separately, individually, each individual with a meter out front.
They're already run those.
We're already done. All that's already complete.
All the foundations already in?
All the individual services are done, sewer, the water, the gas.
Yeah, but you don't have individual services to each unit. Already on your property without foundation set in?
Yeah, you normally put the main lines in and then you stub each building. So again, when this was all designed, it was designed not to be individual units. So now this change is kind of what's getting us.
You already have foundations in.
We have some foundations in that are literally sitting there because we can't move forward until we hear from the board. And quite honestly, if this doesn't go through, we may not be able to finish the remainder of the project. We may just have to stop at that intersection and just to leave it at B.
How big out the phone call?
Paul's office,
Try
I got the
again.
secretary up front again, sorry.
It is, that's for personal number.
I got his personal number.
Yeah, but you can try.
Good. I thought it was, he's at lunch.
Stick that into him on phone. It's gonna help you out.
I'll grab my desk.
We're at the point now, to answer, don't remember if we asked the question about where we stand right now in foundation and so forth. We're at the point where we're pretty much stopped. We're not able to proceed further. We had an agreement with the town that, you know, we would get resolution from the state before continuing with construction, framing and mechanicals and those kinds of things. So we've done almost everything that we can do, and meanwhile, the interest payments are still coming in. So it's been a little nervous.
You know, I'll be honest with you, that roadway coming across where that easement is it looks like utility easement of some type.
There's the one that comes down the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty steep hill. I don't know if that would qualify for the secondary access road.
It'd be up to the code enforcement to look at it for the grade and.
Yeah. We had spoken to Lyle about a few different options and things, and like I said,
I mean, it would solve your problem. I mean, it would solve your problem. You wouldn't need the variance.
It is an access, Peter Kleinman here, it is an access road. It is it is a method of getting a fire truck from one place to another and nothing more.
Yep, you could, like I said, you could make it into a walking path, you know, just with people.
And the
to
dog
walk.
walkers take it over in your town
Yep.
all the time.
Yep, exactly.
And you gotta get somebody to mow
You
it.
could put gates at the end of them. You don't have to have it open to anybody to drive through other than the fire department.
would that access road that comes down that hill in the utility easement, is that based on looking at the stub road as the secondary access road for the project?
No, that particular, when you start the cul-de-sac and go back, that has more than 30 units in it. So that requires a second means of egress or sprinkler. That's where you're at. Either get a second means of egress. That's just the cul-de-sac itself. The other area, you don't need the sprinkler. All that, because they're using that exception that the road is going to continue eventually. That's in there, that code section's in there. It says, and you say it's going to extend it eventually anyway.
In fact, the firefighter access road is contingent on that road extending.
Yes. Our town used to have what we call an 800-foot rule. You were allowed to build a cul-de-sac 800 foot without a second means of egress. That was prior to New York State adopting that unit code. If those were single-family buildings, you probably would get away with it. You wouldn't probably have a problem. You know, you'd probably just fit 30 in there and that would be the end of it. But the fact that you're making it multiple residents and you're putting it more than 30 units, that's a dead-end road, which needs a second means of egress.
So, just to make sure I understand, do you think that the stub road at the end of Wood Trace, does that suffice, not for the cul-de-sac at this time, but that suffices as a
Yeah.
secondary?
For the other units, all those units going up that, there's an exception in there, and that's one of the exceptions. It says if there's continuation, a future continuation, then you don't have to require them to be sprinkled. So all those buildings that you're building on that road, coming from where you started over, where you took it over, would not be required to be sprinkled. I think the only variance you need here is just for that cul-de-sac. And that's pretty much based on what the inspector said. So you could go ahead and continue to build those.
I'm only seem confused because that wasn't our understanding, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the code says. The code has an exception.
Sorry, Lyle, I have, the chairman and the board on, where am I?
Hi, Lyle, John Lyden here, chairman of the board. How are you? Good, thank you. So we're trying to move this along and kind of get the facts and get everybody's position at the table here. So I'm gonna try to summarize things here and see if you can correct me. So the cul-de-sac portion of these new construction is where you feel that there is not the secondary fire apparatus Lane, is that accurate?
Well, I think about the entire thing. The call of that.
Okay, so, yeah, sorry. So.
I'm sorry, before you start, just for the record, I can't hear what he's saying on the phone, so he won't be on the record because I can't hear him.
Okay, well, we'll try to cover that
If it's something
in our
that-
findings, et cetera. Thank you.
So, the fire access road has an exception that when approved by the fire code official, they shall be permitted to, if they have a, if the building, or if the project is going to continue. Trying to find the actual section here. Where they say that a stub road is considered that there may be a additional access, it may move on, you know, down the road, that you can make that an exception, and that particular area doesn't need the sprinklers. Where the issue that we think that's, or that I think is needed is the cul-de-sac area, because that is dead-ended, and that has over 30 units on it.
Is that because there is a plan for me and they do not own that property to the road? I can't.
Okay, that's legitimate.
So is there any, so you're considered the fire official also?
I'm the fire.
So you're the fire marshal. So what is your position regarding this particular scenario, these distances, all the variables at hand? What is your position regarding firefighting practices relative to this scenario? Have you been at a table when everybody says, oh, we know what to do, we'll put the bumper here, we'll tie this up here, and we'll on and on and on and on? Or is there concern?
Well, concern out of the town that, if we get to the very town within the last 2 years, we're going to run 1 million to fire, and we're not able to access. And therefore, the town of this standpoint, egress or fire apparatus, we're gonna go the top way.
Gotcha. Okay, so yes, I think you just said you are not in favor of this variance.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yes, if I would have been in favor of it, to that point, I would have been, well, say, yes, would be great. Although, maybe whether it be or some way, which is a little bit further down to the south, that I'd be favorable, but at this point in time, it's hard to say, but the way I understand it, from fire separation. And, no, that's why I was thinking. I want to make that determination of what is acceptable.
Okay, so on the checklist that you signed and check boxes, do you support the petitioner's request for a variance? You said yes, and you're saying that you don't agree with the variance, but you just support them to go ahead and do it.
as well with that.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So are you, in agreement with or okay with having additional conversations exploring all avenues for a easement for the fire lane? You know, Rick, what was that one that you talked about that might be
Coming across, yeah, it's where the utility easement is, right?
where the utility easement is coming down a hill? Does that ring a bell with you?
It would only be for the cul-de-sac, it wouldn't be if he's interpreting that dead end road to be a dead end, it wouldn't.
Yeah, I guess one of the positions on the board here is that that would help the cul-de-sac dead end this, but not the rest. So, if that came to fruition, we would still be against that, even though it doesn't apply to the entire development. Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay, so, here today, you guys can move forward with this variance request, we can adjourn and we can vote. I don't sense that everybody likes what's on the table. I could be wrong, but I guess I'm saying if you go forward with the variance, there's a chance you can get it. There's a chance you can get it, there's a chance you may not get it, however, we can table this variance if you'd like to have more discussions regarding this other stone gravel path, blah, 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 that we were hinting toward, with this code official. So you kind of follow what your two options are. One is table and see if you can work this out. The other one is let's go for it and keep your fingers crossed. That's up to you.
Yeah, it's,
You could go take a walk and
I don't know.
have a shot of whiskey and figure it out.
Richard, I'd like to ask, Lyle, and you guys, you guys are on the same thing here. By putting a gravel road in on that utility easement,
Well, that's up to him, because I was saying that the dead end road would be acceptable, but
sure.
he's saying it isn't, so I can't.
can we ask for a variance based on that determination, of the end road?
At that particular time, you could, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
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 The other part is in place.
The other part's in place.
If you came before us with his agreement and then this and this and this, then yes, you can present it.
Wow, would that be something you might be in agreement to, if we could make something work with a gravel entrance and have that stuck road still be considered, another, a third access point?
As long as you can make that big enough for egress.
Well, I mean, it sounds like
We have to get a suggestion going on, or
Well,
something in mind, you're thinking?
you
A
could
CP,
certainly,
so
you could
we've got some
certainly,
ideas.
you could certainly take this with you, and push it up the hill, so to speak, with the code official and fire marshal and work through that or whatever else you guys see as, potential. And at the end of this hearing, you can certainly talk with John, who is a PE, about his thoughts on it.
Yeah, it looks like there's properties to the north of that some type of an easement you might be able to work out with.
That makes it a lot easier for us to consider the stub road as a point of access. If the gravel road or some equivalent to that is in place to the code officers.
Because then it would give you the relief that way.
Right.
And then you wouldn't need the sprinkler if you put that roadway down.
Right.
That would solve that problem.
If you do those two things that I sketched down there, I don't even think you need a variance.
It could be. Give him what's a
And
stub road?
I don't know if you can get a easement from the property owners there, but
Yeah.
there's a big empty space there, and money talks, I think you could probably get some kind of an easement. Put those two things that are in pink and gravel, and we're done. No easement, just build it out.
Just make them understand that it's strictly for fire protection. It's not for normal people driving through.
Yeah, the lock gates never bother the firemen. They do bother other people.
Putting the Knox lock on them.
I'm certainly willing to explore other options and alternatives.
I think that's a good idea.
We were just, yeah,
Yeah, because you know.
our advice was that this was not possible, so that's why we were advised to look at strictly the financial aspect of
Yeah,
our petition.
yeah, so that's good. We got a little more light is shed here that might provide a path for you to move forward and even without a variance, maybe. So, I mean, if you're okay with that, we will table this hearing. Yeah, we'll table this hearing and do your work, and you may not have to come back at all, or if you do come back, it certainly increased your chances of a variance type of issue.
If we do explore this option and it turns out that it's still not a possibility, is the next step, what would the next step be?
If you don't have any alternative
Right.
to come back to, it would be exactly as it is right now. If you
But
come
you-
back with alternatives.
Right, or your scenario, documenting that you explored these alternatives, and the property owner said, well, second A, no, you know, we won't do it under any circumstances, or we want $20 million. If you document the inability to look at some of these other more reasonable options, and then you'd be back in front of us, but at least we would have in front of us your efforts and the results of these other.
Yeah, we can get comfortable that you've done your homework. They work.
One of the two might suffice, because getting two is gonna be extremely difficult in my opinion, but if we were to get one of them, that would technically give us two different points of interest, is that correct?
I think it's both of those.
And if it is just one of them, and Kyle is in favor at that point, then you come here again better than you are right now. You got Kyle on board and you got some stone path.
You know, our suggestion is to go for both first, and then if you have to back off to at least the one.
Yeah.
To get the cul-de-sac.
I don't honestly think this one's gonna work. I mean, we're talking about a grade that I don't think any fire
Is
truck
that the
is right.
cul-de-sac?
Yeah, it's 35 feet elevations right now. I don't think any fire truck's gonna drive.
That's really more important than the other one, to be honest with you.
It is.
Yeah.
There's another option here. You've got those houses, what is it, Talavoma Lane or something there? Buy one of those houses and knock it down and run the stub road out there. A little extreme, but just make it break for the whole project. Might be something to consider.
Just the unfortunate part is it gets spun on us at, you know, at this point of the game, and that's the part that's really hard, you know.
We're at a standstill.
Could have planned, now we're at a standstill too, because, you know, Lyle's like, can't do any more permits until we figure out what's going on, so we're literally at a standstill. So that's why we're looking for some sort of relief.
Unfortunately, it's Peter Flanagan. Unfortunately, there are too many ways to bring this project into compliance with firefighter access. You really have to explore all of those different ways to get a good financial understanding of what it will cost for you to comply. But it's entirely possible that you don't have to come back to see us after looking at some of those possibilities, because you can prepare a compliant alternative for the local.
If those were single-family homes in that cul-de-sac and you had 33 of them, you might get a break. But the fact that there's multiple residents, there's too many units in there.
Well, my understanding,
For my fire protection.
the structures are built as single-family structures.
Yeah.
They're considered single-family, so.
But there's so many units there.
Talk to the code official, you're stop dead in the water, do 29 houses along, Wood Trace. You should be able to do that.
You could do 29 units, yeah.
Because then you're not in violation of everything, and it would get you over. You gotta subtract off the ones that are already built, but whatever's left. Ought to be able to go there on Monday and start work.
We've already started those are already.
Those are already,
Done.
that's what brings us to the point we're at now.
Brings us to the point we're at right now.
Yeah.
So, I do like the, this suggestion about, not considering this, that would just make the cul-de-sac, which would allow us to at least continue building this area right here.
But that's up to the code official.
Yeah.
Okay, so sounds like we're gonna table the matter and then you guys are gonna do a little more legwork and hopefully get something, resolved and whether we come back or not.
So the code enforcement officer does have the ability to make this exception here.
Yeah, because he'll say whether it's gonna continue or not.
Right.
But if he's still comfortable with that, then.
Okay, yeah, it's really up to him to make that determination whether or not. So your biggest concern is the cul-de-sac, is what your biggest.
Well, right now, yeah, right now.
Yeah, if he goes along with things, if he goes along with alternatives, you just increased your 100%, your chance of getting through this board, because he's the enforcer, he knows the implications, and he's going along with it.
Okay.
So, but he can't say that meets the New York State Building Code.
That's what
If
we.
it doesn't, that's what we do.
That's what you guys do. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for all your time and your suggestions and,
Thank you.
Okay, so for the record, regarding petition number 2023-0514, the aggrieved party to Riley International Engineering and Architecture PC, the board has decided to table this particular hearing and allow the petitioner to move forward with some alternatives that may bring better relief to the problem at hand, being the fire apparatus access lane. With that in mind, do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second?
I second.
John, Rick?
Yes.
John? Peter?
Yes.
David? Yes. John Lyden is also in favor of the tabling motion has been approved 5-0. The hearing is now concluded. Thank you. Hey, guys.